Units heading up to the code 3 chase. Suspect was last reported southbound on Highway 99.
Can you give me more info on that call?
Greetings. I'm Brian Tuscan, your host. Welcome to Cop to Corporate. On today's program, we have a special guest, someone that I know and worked with for about 3 years. Her name is Brittany Johnsen, and Brittany is a detective with the city of Edmonds, Washington. It is a community, waterfront community just north of Seattle, and a beautiful community, about 40,000 people, and she protects the citizens there. So we're doing a little something different from cop to corporate. Brittany actually went from corporate to cop, and she's going to tell us her story. This is like a recruiting video because I've been getting feedback from some of my peers from the police department saying, hey, you're just drawing all the cops mid-career to the private sector. How about showing some love for recruiting and people that want to be police officers? And it's a very rewarding career. So Brittany's going to tell us her story. So first of all, Brittany, welcome to the Cop to Corporate program. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, Brian. Thanks so much for having me. It's good to see you. It's been a while, right? About 6 years, I think, probably since I've seen you. So thank you. It's
been a while. And so Brittany has a very unique story. She's in the military, or I'm not sure if you're still in the Guard. So maybe tell us about that. And then what prepared you to become a police officer and then motivated you to be a police officer? So why don't we start with your military career, working in corporate, and then what drove you to get into the police department?
Yeah, I actually, I joined the Army Reserve when I was 17. I was still in high school. I went through basic training the summer between my junior and senior year of high school. And then when I graduated, I went back and finished high school and then went back and finished my training. So I've been in for almost 11 years now. And I'm the platoon sergeant of my unit. It's in Marysville. So right after I got out of my job training out of Missouri, I decided I wanted to go to college, but I knew I probably needed to make some money. So that's when I started working for Microsoft as a security guard. And I remember, I think I worked as a security guard for about 6 months, maybe, before I got into working in the call center in the GSOC. And I think I ran into you actually in the lunchroom, and you asked me, hey, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to be a cop. And you're like, cool. Do you want another job? And I was like, oh God, okay. I think I was like 18 or 19. So that's when I started working as one of the assistant administrators. And from there, I got so much experience doing trade shows, and I got to travel, which was just the coolest thing for me. I was like 19, 20 years old, and I got to travel all over Chicago and go to IACP and ASIS. I remember turning 21, and I'll never forget this, Brian. You brought me into your office for a one-on-one. And you said, what do you want to do? You still want to be a cop. And you pulled out the whiteboard and you drew my timeline. This is little old me starting down here. And this is how you get to be the chief. And I'm not the chief, but, I've taken some steps up that line you drew for me. The reasons why I got into law enforcement, I had a little bit of a different upbringing. My dad raised me. My mom was in prison for the first few years of my life. And I lived we were living in welfare, Section 8. And I think at a pretty young age, I realized I'm either going to be a cop or I'm going to be a crook. Those are my two options, right? So I decided I wanted to be a cop, and that led me to the military, which led me to Microsoft. And here I am.
Well, Brittany, you went through a lot just kind of explaining your trajectory on the corporate side. And I recall when I ran into you, because you had a great reputation of just being a go-getter, right? From the security guard to SOC operator. And you had these goals. And when you said you wanted to be a police officer, obviously you got to be 21 to be commissioned in the state of Washington. So you had some time, and we had a bunch of cops working in the organization. So we kind of took you under our wing, like work dads or cop dads, where we just said, okay, here's where you have to plan and what you have to do to prepare yourself. So could you give maybe some younger people that are looking at a career in law enforcement, and you did not have a traditional life growing up? Thank you for sharing that very personal story. So you can come from any type of upbringing or background and still be successful in law enforcement. So could you tell us, how did you get through working in a corporate environment and then prepared yourself all the way to going to the police academy and now being very successful in the Edmonds Police Department?
Yeah, so I think I didn't realize it at the time, but the most important thing working in the corporate world was networking. I didn't know that that's what I was doing at the time, but I got to meet people from all over the world, retired police officers, retired military, retired prosecutors, and even after I left, I still kept in contact, and I didn't know that magic word of networking at the time. And so that was probably the biggest thing that I did to prepare myself, that I didn't really know that I was doing to prepare myself. But while I was working at Microsoft, I did a lot of studying and did all these things, but really at the end of the day, the best way to prepare to become a police officer is be honest, stay in shape, and just get prepared for a completely different world. Going through the academy was one of the greatest experiences of my life, and I think the military certainly prepared me for that, because you have to be a leader, you have to take charge, you have to have a loud voice sometimes, which I never had a problem with. So those are a lot. I mean, any job that you have, whether you're working as a cook or you're working in a corporation, is going to be able to prepare you in some way to give you skills to become a successful police officer.
That's fantastic. And so I recall vividly going to your graduation, so 6+ years ago, and we're really proud of you. A bunch of us showed up, and you had a smile from ear to ear as you were trying to be as stoic and professional as possible, but you achieved your dream of being a cop. So like I said, I always talk about transition cop to corporate, but this is just such a gratifying story, seeing a young professional with a desire to be a police officer, now successfully a police officer. So why don't you tell us a little more about the city of Edmonds? What do you do? And then I was just super pleased and surprised to see that you're a detective now. So tell us a little about your police career. And this is more of a recruiting video for anyone out there that wants to be a cop. And by the way, Edmonds is recruiting.
Yeah. So Edmonds, right, is about 40,000 people. We have, right now we have about 58 commissioned positions, which we are hiring for some of those positions, lots of retirements coming up. It's a beautiful city, and it's a very diverse city. We have the Edmonds waterfront, which is your beautiful ferry dock, your nice downtown businesses. And, we also have in the north part of the city, lots of residences, and we also have a little bit of Highway 99. So it's a very different, from all the borders of the city are very different. When I started, I worked graveyard patrol, which was amazing. I don't think you can get through a law enforcement career without spending some time on night shift. And from there, I started field training. So I've trained a good maybe half a dozen of our newest officers that have come in the last couple of years. I got into the South Snohomish County Honor Guard team. I become an instructor. Like you said, I do instruction for our CAD mobile dispatch system for the new hires, and for some of the older guys that don't know how to use computers. And now I'm doing backgrounds for new hires. So I just started doing that. I've only been doing it for about a month now. And I got into detectives in October. So I'm doing mostly property crimes, but really just anything that they kind of throw at me. So it's been great.
Wow, that is so amazing. And how about telling the listeners here about the skills that you learn in the corporate side, especially the technology skills that help you propel and being successful as a police officer.
Yeah, so I remember when I worked at Microsoft, my favorite thing to use was OneNote. And I have found that that is all I use now in detectives is OneNotes to keep me organized. So, really, we use Outlook, we use OneNote, and it's all about organization because even when you're on patrol, you may not be doing a lot of case management, but sometimes you'll wind up with 6 or 7 reports at the end of the shift. You're too tired to write them, so you got to write them the next day. But you have to keep your thoughts organized if you can't remember what you were supposed to write about. We also use pretty much every Microsoft product. We use Outlook. I use Publisher. And so just being at least familiar with those is going to help keep your, kind of keep your thoughts straight. And the more that you do that on patrol, the easier it's going to be when you promote, when you're a supervisor, when you're working on, managing your team or your squad. And, now I think I have half a dozen or more cases where, just keeping track of interviews and notes and background investigations. So really just using all that when I worked for you, I never thought that it would come to light now that I'm in detectives. So it's been great.
That's great. So full disclosure for the listeners out there, I am an employee of Microsoft. And so we're touting Microsoft products, but it is the best, right? I mean, back when I was a Redmond police officer, I leveraged the Microsoft suite of apps. And if you're familiar with that, it could really help you. So Brittany, I'm very proud of you. A lot of the team that still works at Microsoft, they were excited when I told them I'm going to interview you and that you're a detective now. We wish you all the best. I want anyone out there interested in a police career, connect with Brittany. Are you on LinkedIn?
I am not on LinkedIn. Well, I am, but I think that's pretty old.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure how you can get in contact with her. If anything, just reach out to the Edmonds Police Department if you're interested in a police job or any police department in the state of Washington. Very professional organizations that we have here. And again, Brittany, thank you so very much for being on Cop to Corporate, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Brian, and say hi to everybody at the office for me.